full collective. But I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that's partly why I wanted, when I was figuring out what sections of this to read, I wanted to make sure that we got the quote from him about the the sky and the green reflected in the COVID memorial, well, not it wasn't built yet, but like that now when he sees it, it makes him think about that. He did talk about that a lot in our interview, actually. There's a lot more climate change things that he discussed. There just wasn't room for all of it. But yeah, I mean that's something that I guess we maybe we need to take a lesson from Kentucky on that, There, I mean, like I can remember like from when I was a kid, there'd be like Earth Day, Like whatever happened to that? I don't even know. Do you know? Like what happened to that? Remember Earth? You're probably too young, but
I
it was a
remember
thing.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I can remember like things in elementary school that were done on that day. Maybe that needs to be revived in the
Yeah.
same way, the same word, same way of the Day of Compassion. Um,
Mhm.
I've been to all three of the Day of Compassion ceremonies in Frankfurt, and these are the kinds of things that come up. It's not only about COVID. So
I know I can say, as I was talking about gardening.
yeah,
I see climate change so vividly from, growing up and helping my grandmother with her garden actually, and opposed to now, I can grow so many more plants now because actually our USDA zones have changed here in Kentucky. We used to be zone 6, but now we're zone 7. So you can grow a greater variety of plants because the climate has warmed. The
wow,
growing season's also longer. We also actually have lots more diseases now. There's an epidemic in roses right now. There's something called rose rosette disease, which is carried by a mite. That's kind of helped by one invasive species, but also the fact that the growing season's longer and the mites don't always die over the winter because we have a warmer winter. So I see climate change every time I go out to my garden to work. And even, I mean, I'm 37, so getting older, but not that old. But in my lifetime, from helping her when I was a kid to now, it's so different, even and I can see it.
hmm. That's kind of like how I feel about teaching in AI almost, Like I noticed a difference from the beginning of last semester to like December, which was wild. And other professors I spoke to like also said that they saw that from the like I'm on an AI committee and that's a lot of people notice that. Just that extreme acceleration, which obviously is related to everything we're talking about. So, yeah.
I think we had a question in the chat.
I do? Okay,
A
cool.
question for everyone. It's, can you talk about how hybrid writing and or incorporating life writing into your scholarly work?
Okay.
I guess I could
Yeah, why don't
speak
you
a little
start?
to that.
Okay.
During my undergrad, one of the most impactful classes I had, in addition to Dr. Bieberman's Shakespeare course, one of the most influential classes I had was from poet Nicole Brown, who it was all about independent publishing, but also poetry. But it really kind of changed my writing in that that idea of poetry being less constrained and scholarly work being very much constrained. I had the hardest trouble trying to do my PhD dissertation and getting started, and part of that was it was during the pandemic. um, but one of the ways that I tackled that was how I mentioned earlier, just turning to fiction and writing poetry and writing fiction. And when I was able to do that anthology of short stories that was like 60,000 words, I was like, well, I can do my dissertation now. Because I felt like it was something I just couldn't tackle. And I always try to incorporate in my scholarly work, even, some of that idea of not it being language that's constrained and trying to think poetically about some things. It's also the nature of work that I do that is very this kind of exotic posthumanism and all this stuff, but not being bound by thinking in purely one discipline or another, and sometimes turning to language itself to being more inclusive in that way has been really helpful.
Justin, do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I would I would call my scholarly work more craft work. And so that becomes inherently personal to me. And a lot of times when I'm thinking about, when I write about craft, what I'm trying to do is write through the problems that I'm having in my own fiction or working on my own novel. And so even then, if I'm having difficulty, say, I was writing this essay about balancing internal and external causation in fiction, and I was struggling to encapsulate the problem effectively or the problem that I was having, and so I made that part of the text. I exposed that struggle, and wrote more of a personal narrative than I had intended. And again, just turning that struggle into the material itself, which I think is a technique that I'm actually now trying to apply to my fiction. It's something that autofiction does really well, for example, writing metafictionally through writer's block or something to that effect. So I don't do a ton of scholarly writing, but when I have I have tried to incorporate personal narrative in that way when possible.
I guess I would say for me that the change came from me when I met all the folks at Rituals in the Making at George Washington, and they were glad to have a poet work with them, and so they encouraged me all the time to be, incorporating all these elements into my pieces, and I really didn't, know that was even possible actually in the way that they wanted it. The personal ethnographic essay and anthropology is an entire genre that I was unfamiliar with, to be honest. So when they found me that day, like literally at the Lincoln Memorial with another group, and told me they'd been studying who we lost, I started weeping because it was something I did. I mean, it was something I had been working on solidly for a couple of years. And, people in like the English and department and poetry community had like turned their noses up at it and said it wasn't, like literary. And then suddenly I had, anthropologists being like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, there's nothing more literary. So, after helping thousands of people write these stories over the past 5 years, I guess I have a completely different perspective on what belongs in an academic essay and what doesn't. I never probably would have thought of that before, seen myself doing that before. Um, yeah. So I think
Thanks, everybody. Good.
I think part of that's looking at other genres. So too.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, everybody.
I'm not sure if time was. I think we have a few more minutes. Anybody else want to ask a question or have a comment?
So Cody, when were you my student? Remind me. Take us back elegiacally down memory lane when the Earth was a little less close to the climate change we are now. And
Well, I graduated with my undergrad in 2011, so it was probably like 2008, 9, or 10. Because I did a triple major in art history, English, and humanities. So you were one of the, I think, required English courses, maybe. I remember doing Shakespeare.
Mhm. Yeah, that's yeah, it was a different university in a certain sense, as the ecosystem that my Shakespeare class was a part of is another one of these systems that is breaking down. Right, I haven't been able to teach a Shakespeare seminar. Certainly, the last two times it's been scheduled, it's been canceled. I haven't been able to get to 15 students at a university with 17,000 students in it. So, uh, right, the collapsing is further than right, the intertwining of the human the ecological and the informational systems that we all inhabit are right, they're going down together. Martha, I enjoyed hearing that a great deal. What are your plans for this essay?
Um, well, I'm grateful that it's going to be in a Cambridge University Press anthology. I have not been able to, I had not, rather, I can now speak about it. I did not speak about it on social media at all. And that is because of the um, nature of interviewing Governor Bashir, frankly. I mean, there was some rules involved. So, and he did edit it and he did, he approved of everything that is in there, but it was kind of like a secret mission in a way that I'm enormously grateful for. And I think it was one of the like better 2 hour stretches of time in my life, honestly, like having that time with him. Um, which apparently he does not do very often on topics like this. So, uh, I just keep working with Rituals in the Making in DC, and I believe that part of the interview will be archived in at UK in the oral history library. Um, but that's something we have to. It's going to require him deciding what parts of the interview go in and do not. Yeah, but it was an honor for sure. So.
Yeah, I had a question for Justin. I remember this children's Bach. Um, right, it's the children's Bach. Am I remembering it correctly?
Children's Bible.
Oh, the children's Bible. What year did this come out?
Oh, 2019 maybe. I can look it up.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right, okay. And how did you get interested in it, and what inspired you to first pick it up and then decide to write about it?
Yeah, so 2020, I just looked it up. And again, when I had my first daughter, I became obsessed with writing climate fiction for kind of existential reasons. And I had owned it. It was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. It was something that was just on my shelf, and I decided to include it in my PhD exams. And I read it, and it spoke to some of the issues that I was having in my own novel, in part that I really wanted to write about climate fiction in a way that, writing about cli-fi is inherently didactic. And I wanted to get that didacticism in kind of sideways to couch it in the familial relationship. And while what I'm doing is very different from what the children's Bible does, because it's funny, it's kind of a parody, it's an allegory, and mine is just a much more straightforward family relationship. It approached the parent-child relationship primarily, and it allowed climate change to, as opposed to kind of hitting the reader over the head with it, organically impact that relationship. And it was just a really useful craft lesson for me as I was working on my novel. And so I ended up writing about it for my PhD exams and turning it into this conference paper.
Gotcha. Well, good luck with your further development of it.
Thank you.
It made me wonder about what your thoughts are about Cormac McCarthy's The Road and other sort of more versions of this that kind of go more into sci-fi and horror.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, I also wrote about the road in my PhD exams. I had a separate set of questions um, where I was kind of writing my own taxonomy of dystopia, and situating it on this spectrum from public to private consciousness. Public dystopia foregrounds the consciousness of, say, the state, the systemic apparatus, the problem. And private dystopia really foregrounds the individualized consciousness, and the road is a prime example of that, where we don't know any of the conditions of the dystopia. It is this climate catastrophe, but we don't know what caused it. Is it an asteroid impact? Is it a nuclear explosion? Right. And it so fully centers the intimacy of the parent-child bond and the parent-child relationship that these characters almost become representative of just the relationship in general, as opposed to these individualized people. They become more individualized as the novel goes on. But what's interesting, I think, about the road, especially when we're talking in context of, say, children's Bible, is that the devastation or what causes it, again, is not alluded to at all. It's as if it's taken for granted. Like this is going to happen. It is inevitable. And then the question becomes, can we survive? Can we carry the flame, to use the language of the road? Whereas in a children's Bible, the question is, can this be mitigated or avoided in some way, shape, or form? And so they both have perhaps open, hopeful endings. But the hope, I think, in a children's Bible is more predicated upon the potential to mitigate disaster instead of getting through it.
Last question. I'm interested in how far back, as you developed your course of study here as part of your graduate work, how far back did we go back to like Mary Shelley's The Last Man, or did we go back? How far? What is ground zero for you?
As far as I don't go that far back. I'm primarily concerned with relatively contemporary fiction. I think as far back as I go is the mid 1960s. Um, for a novel whose name I'm blanking on now, unfortunately, where London is flooded. But it is a result of something completely made up, like the Earth's rotation changes and the zones of the poles uh, migrate to the north, and that occasions the flooding. But I was concerned primarily with contemporary fiction because from a craft perspective, that was what was most useful to me.
Gotcha. Well, good luck with all and Cody and Martha as well. Good luck to all of you with further developments of your work in this session, which was all uniformly very good.
Thank you.
Justin, have you done anything with Jeff Vandermeer in the Southern Reach trilogy?
Yes, not just for pleasure. I actually that's one I just read that in the last year or so. I haven't read have you read the fourth? I haven't read the newest one yet.
No, not yet. But yeah, I love the sort of hybridization and how his work is, you can kind of feel it being slimy and oozy, and I love that. Just because I think it's one of some of the writing I've read that's really good with kind of embracing that kind of otherness.
Very much so, and is the type of writer that really intimidates me because when I read some cli-fi, I'm always trying to reverse engineer. How do we get to this? How do we come to this moment of understanding, this emotional turn? And with Vandermeer, I can't do it. It eludes me. I think it is that ooziness, that sliminess that you're talking about, Cody.
I guess that's it, right? Yeah.
There's no sin in ending 5 minutes early.
Well, thank you to Justin and Cody. It was an honor to read with you and think about all these things.
Yeah. And
Humor.
Cody, it was good to see you again and to hear that if you're in Louisville, come, or if you want to follow up for whatever reason, feel free to reach out.
I actually still live just a little south of Louisville, so I commute a long way to Cincinnati a couple days a week, but I
Wow.
still live in the area.
And Justin, good luck with so your when do you complete your when do you get your degree? When is it conferred upon you?
May. May.
Oh, advance congratulations then on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The job market. How fun.
Speaking of dying things,
Well, I got a tenure track job last year, so it's possible. It
congratulations.
took 10 years, but I did.
I do have an offer that is dependent upon legislative approval, so I have half an offer, but
Great, great.
Cool.
All right, well, keep us in the loop then. Good luck. Cody, congratulations on your job success. Martha, thanks for chairing the session.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.